Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to welcome you to the Krame Center for Mindful Living. I'd like to welcome back those of you who are a regular part of our mindfulness community and meditation group. And I'd also like to offer a nice warm welcome to those of you who are joining us for the very first time. So, just a little bit about us. We are a global nonprofit organization whose mission is to make the benefits of mindfulness, self compassion, and positive psychology accessible to all. Our goal is to help people become more resilient and live better lives through our various programs. We offer affordable pricing and scholarships, as well as these free weekly meditations. And our current monthly theme is Living with an Open Heart. And this week's theme is Living a More Resilient Life. And I'd like to begin with a quote by Elaine de Botton. A good half of the art of living is resilience. The American Psychological Association defines resilience as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. It has also been defined as bouncing back from a difficult experience. When we think of the term resilience, we often think of this term bouncing back. But there was a key word in the definition that I shared, and that's process. So, sure, there are people who are naturally resilient. However, if this isn't you, no need to worry. Resilience is a skill that we can learn and build upon. It's a process, and the skill of resilience is worth taking the time to develop. Research has shown that resilience is associated with longevity, lower rates of depression, and greater life satisfaction. And the first step in being resilient is mindfulness. We must first have an awareness that we're struggling or facing a difficulty. And with this recognition, we can consciously choose how we will proceed and handle the situation at hand. There are many ways that we can build resilience. And throughout the past few weeks, we have discussed numerous ways in which we can build and strengthen this quality. So I'm going to take the opportunity to briefly review them so that you can begin or continue to incorporate them into your day to day life to build resilience. So, living with optimism, this is the first that I'd like to discuss. It involves choosing to view things from a glass half full perspective rather than a glass half empty. It's about choosing to view things from a hopeful perspective. It's having confidence about a successful outcome in the future. And from this perspective, things are workable, right? It's a positive place from which to move forward. We can also pursue meaning and purpose in life to contribute to our resilience. There's an expression that I'd like to share. It's that those who know the why of their existence can survive almost anyhow. So, pursuing meaning and leaning into our purpose helps to keep us afloat during the difficult moments of our lives. It also helps us to connect what is happening in our lives to something larger than ourselves, giving us a greater perspective. Our character strengths, right? These are another great way to build resilience. Our character strengths are the positive traits and capacities that we have for thinking, feeling, and behaving a certain way. Recognizing our character strengths gives us the ability to use them in our daily lives, which is especially important during the face of a challenge. Using our unique strengths can help us to remain balanced in the midst of a difficulty. And it can even help us sometimes to change our perspective, to gain greater clarity, and to find creative solutions. And we can also ask ourselves empowering questions. When we ask inspiring and optimistic and empowering questions, we get inspiring and more optimistic answers. So, the questions that we ask ourselves really do create the running narrative in our minds. And so asking empowering questions allows us to reframe how we view a situation. It really allows us to change our perspective, which can then significantly impact the outcome of our experience. It's very powerful. So, these are just a few of the many ways in which we can live a more resilient life. And so, I hope that you'll continue to explore these in your own life and see how they build resilience. So, with that, I would like to invite us into the formal portion of our meditation this evening. And so I'd like to invite you to find a comfortable seat, right? Making yourself as comfortable as possible. This might mean draping a blanket over your legs, it might mean laying down, right? So just doing whatever you need to settle in. And when you're ready, there's an invitation to close the eyes or soften the gaze, right? Bringing the attention inward. And maybe noticing where the body is making contact with the floor or the chair. So maybe sensing into the soles of the feet, noticing the contact the soles of the feet are making with the earth below, and feeling this connection. And likewise, now noticing the sits bones resting on the seat, maybe feeling supported or held by the seat in some way. Again, tuning into this contact. And if you're seated, perhaps just finding a little extra length in the spine, reaching through the crown of the head. Maybe it feels nice to lift the shoulders up toward the ears, just shrugging them a little bit and then releasing them back down to the sides of the body, opening up the chest and the heart space as you do this. And so just continuing to settle into your posture in any fashion that feels right. And as you continue to settle in, perhaps you become aware of the fact that the body is breathing, right? Noticing how the body is breathing all on its own with no need to do anything. And now just gently resting the awareness on the breath in the body. So, no need to change or manipulate the breath in any way. Just allowing the breath to be exactly as it is and following it along. Noticing one breath in, one breath out, another breath in, and another breath out. And just continuing to follow the breath in this way. Staying with each breath, breath by breath, and moment by moment. Just continuing to ride the waves of the natural breath cycle. following this gentle ebb and flow of the breath. Nowhere to go, nowhere to be, but right here with the breath in the body. And now reflecting on what resilience means to you. So, what does resilience mean to you? When you hear this term resilience, what comes up? What bubbles up to the surface? So, just taking some time to reflect on what resilience means to you in your life, in your personal journey. And now, reflecting on a time in your life when you felt that you were resilient. So, calling such an experience to mind. And once you've chosen such an occurrence, recalling all of the details of the experience. So, what happened? Who was there? What was said? How did you handle the difficulty or challenge? So, just painting a picture of this in your mind, reliving a time in your life when you were resilient. What did resilience look like for you? And how did it feel? How did it feel to be resilient? Maybe even tapping into this felt sense in the body as you recall this, as you recall what resilience felt like. And now, reflecting on the qualities that made you resilient. So, what were the qualities that made you resilient? And just seeing what comes to mind. And now I'd like to invite you to recall a time when you weren't resilient. So, calling such an experience to mind, and I'd like to invite you to recall all of the details of this experience. What happened, who was there, what was said. So, just painting a picture of this occurrence in the mind's eye. Capturing as many details as possible. How did you handle this difficulty or challenge? And how did it feel? Again, perhaps noticing where it can be felt in the body as you recall such an experience. Noticing how it felt. And now comparing the two occurrences. Do you notice any differences in how you responded? Do you notice any differences in how you felt? Perhaps there are differences in the outcome. So, just taking some time to sit with this, comparing both experiences. And now, choosing a difficulty that you're currently facing in your life. And so, calling this to mind. And how are you meeting this challenge? Are you using your skills of resilience? If so, how are you doing this? And if not, how might you contribute to your resilience? So, for instance, perhaps you're viewing the situation from a glass half empty perspective. And if this is the case, how might you make a shift to view things from a more optimistic lens? Or perhaps you're asking negative questions, maybe determining some new questions that you could ask, some empowering questions that might produce inspiring or creative answers. Perhaps you could use your character strengths, right? These strengths that make you uniquely you to overcome this challenge. What strengths might you utilize to help you get through this difficulty? So, just taking some time to sit with this, to reflect on this. Seeing what bubbles up to the surface. And then, when you're ready, in your own time, just coming back to the breath in the body once again. So, shifting the focus of attention back onto the breath in the body. And just following along the breath cycle. Staying with our tried and true companion, that is the breath. And if the mind wanders away, just coming back to the breath once again, remembering that each breath is an opportunity to begin again. Each moment we can begin anew. And this perspective alone contributes to resilience. We can always begin again. And continuing to follow a few more breath cycles. And I'd like to offer this poem, Resilience, by Susan Freibourt. They say beauty comes from a spirit that has weathered many hardships in life and somehow continues with resilience. Grace can be found in a soul that ages softly, even amid the tempest. I think the loveliest by far is the one whose gentle heart bears 100 scars from caring, yet still finds a way to pick up the lamp one more time to light the way for love. And just letting those words land if they resonate. And in a moment, I'll be ringing the bell to conclude our formal portion of the meditation this evening. And then just beginning to wiggle fingers and toes. So bringing some small and gentle movements back into the body. Allowing the eyes to open if they had been closed. Perhaps you'd like to take some more exaggerated movements to just wake the body back up. And so I'd like to leave us with a weekly invitation. And I'd like to invite you to pay attention to a difficulty, or challenge that you're facing during the week, and reflect on how you're meeting this challenge, and bring some of your skills of resilience to overcome or deal with it. So that's my invitation for you all this week. And I just would like to conclude with a few announcements. We do have a spring mindful self-compassion course beginning on April 28th. This course will be taking place on Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we also have a spring MBSR course beginning on May 6th, and this will be taking place on Friday mornings from 9:30 until noon, again, Eastern Time. And so if you've enjoyed these practices, these meditations, these courses are a really wonderful way to deepen your practice. So we hope that you'll consider joining us. I would like to wish you all a really wonderful week. We look forward to seeing you again next week. But until then, be well and take good care. See you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.